Okay. We're now live on Facebook. So good evening, everyone. Good evening, IFNG. Good evening, Niner Squad. So for tonight, we are on our new lecture with my BFF, Sir Marbs. Kindly introduce our speaker.
Hi, good evening. Welcome back to IFNG Live. And tonight, Wednesday, and we're honored to have another great lecturer from 9.09er. And she's one of the communicator trainer from 9.0. And we have Miss Geraldyn Solis, Miss Den, or BFF. Welcome back to IFNG.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome, Mr. M, and my BFF, Miss Gladys. Okay, hello everyone. I'm greeting everyone good morning, good evening, and good afternoon for all the Filipinos all over the world. Hi, hi, hi. Okay, I'm Dan Solis, as mentioned, and I will be with you for today from 9 p.m. up until 11 p.m. Philippine time. Yon. So today, we will be doing a lecture about Ielts speaking. Okay, so first off, let me know, or I just want to know from which countries are you from? For all the participants. Yeah, here in the Zoom chat box. Yeah, you can type your messages here in the chat box or sa Facebook. Yeah, para makita natin. Me, I'm here. I'm currently located here in Cebu. How about the rest of you guys? So, nasa na ating chat box? Philippines, Singapore, okay? Dubai. Hello in Singapore also. We have 2 people from Singapore already. Philippines. Sa Philippines, South ba? Visayas area? So, from which part ng Philippines? Yan. Okay. So as we know naman, 'di ba? All the Filipinos, yan. Ayan, meron tayong from Davao, Mindanao, Quezon City, Cavite, Philippines. Hello, good evening to you. I hope you guys are all doing fine, doing well, sitting pretty, but making the most out of your time tonight. Okay, so as I've mentioned, we will be doing our speaking lecture for today. And for the appropriate task or the appropriate topic for today in speaking, we would be actually focusing on the speaking portion, which involves pronunciation. So because we all know that not most of us are that much concerned when it comes to the speaking test. We're somehow a little overwhelmed or a little conscious about how speaking goes. Okay, so just a minute. Oh, representing Cubao, si Ange. Hello, hello. Sige. I will be sharing my screen and then please just tell me if the screen is big enough for you guys. I hope so. Sige. Yeah. Okay, so is it big enough, guys? No, not yet complete. There you go. Okay, so for today, as mentioned, we will be having a lecture on IELTS speaking pronunciation. Yeah, so just a quick background or a quick run through of the speaking subtest. So the IELTS speaking is being graded according to 4 band descriptors or according to 4 criteria. Namely, you have fluency and coherence, then you have your grammatical range and accuracy, plus you have your vocabulary or lexical resource. Lastly, there is also pronunciation. All 4 are equally divided, so you will be given 25% to account for all 4 of these, equally divided siya. So that is why it is imperative or it is important for you to give importance to all 4 also. Okay, so right now we will be focusing on the pronunciation. Now, I do understand that as Filipinos, we do have several types of accents, several types of ways by which we speak. And in these ways, sometimes we are having difficulties and we are having problems when it comes to our way by which we pronounce the words. But I hope that through this lecture, we will be able to successfully overcome whatever it is that we have as a hurdle when it comes to the IELTS speaking. Okay, so Pam Cruz is from the Philippines. All right, there you go. So at the beginning, I do understand that for most of us, even I myself, even had that certain problem when it comes to speaking. I'm troubled when it comes to the content of what I would have to say during my speaking test. However, in terms of the speaking test, I do understand that I first had to overcome the content portion, or I first have to focus on what I need to say, or I first have to make sure that there are some words, some thoughts that would come out of my mouth so that I would be graded accordingly. But then again, as I went through my review process, it is something that I learned all throughout the process. As soon as I progressed throughout my whole IELTS journey, I realized that pronunciation is something that I must also consider, given that it also deserves 25% of the whole total score for the IELTS speaking. So it's something that you need to consider also. Okay, so here in this lecture, we are going to break down the factors that affect pronunciation. Okay, I have taken into consideration five factors, namely there is accent, there's phonetics, there's word stress and sentence stress. Also, there is intonation, and lastly, there is connected speech. So all five of which, based on the category that we see here, or based on the graph that we see, it has something to do with the interchanging factors when it comes to this kind of test. So that is why for all of you guys, I hope that with all of the factors, I do understand that you might be having problems when it comes to sentence stresses or word stresses. That's why sometimes even I experience during coaching sessions, I don't understand sometimes the meaning of the words that the students say because there is word stress problem. Sometimes there is sentence stress problem. So um, instead of having a statement, it seems like my question is being answered by another question because of the wrong stress in the words that were used by the students. So hopefully by the end of the lecture, this is something that we would be aiming to correct or at least to help you little by little when it comes to these problems. Hello, Muzamil Hossein Suman from Bangladesh. Hi, hello. Okay, I hope we will have a warm welcome. I don't know how we give a warm virtual welcome to all those that we meet virtually or through this platform. Okay, so let's do with the first one. Okay, this is accent. Okay, when it comes to the actual test, depending on which type or which center you're going to book your exam, there are different kinds of accents for the examiners. So sometimes, if you're lucky, you might have an examiner with an American accent, which is relatively the easiest to understand among the others. Also, there's a chance that you might have a British accent na examiner, sometimes Canadian accent. Also, there's a possibility for a New Zealand or Kiwi accent or an Australian accent. I had my exam last year, and as far as I can remember, my examiner had an Australian accent. He is a Filipino, but when the speaking exam started, his accent changed. I was surprised. I was surprised. Lucky me, what I did during that time or as part of my review was to watch Australian shows, Australian movies on Netflix. So I filtered the movies on Netflix so that I will be able to familiarize myself with the different kinds of words and even the slangs that were used um, during the during those movies. Okay, so that it's easier for me if ever I would be assigned to an examiner with an Australian accent, I won't be having that much problem when it comes to listening and when it comes to understanding also. And in the same way, if you're able to familiarize yourself with these kinds of accents already, there's no problem when it comes to your listening test, no matter what kind of accent you might be able to encounter during the audio files. But then again, listening is for another topic and another day. We'll be focusing on speaking for today. Okay? Given that there is a chance for you to encounter either one of these accents that are presented on your screen, it does not necessarily mean that you need to have these accents as well. Um, you don't actually need to have an American accent or a British or a Canadian or a New Zealand or an Australian accent. No need for that. If you have a strong Filipino accent or um, if ever you have, let's say, a dialect that is your first language, that is first when it comes to your language category. For example, I know people who have a strong Visayan accent or a strong Ilocano accent, which is a native here, native group here in the Philippines. It's okay. If you are from Bangladesh, just like Muzamil Hussein Suman, it's okay also if you have your accent, so long as what is important is that regardless of the accent that you have, clarity should always be the primary factor that needs to be considered. As long as you are understood, as long as your words and your thoughts are understood, there's no problem when it comes to your accent. So you don't need to allot some time to have an American accent or a British accent, or you don't need to gather that much strength to maintain that accent. No need. That's just for me. That's just useless. That's just useless when it comes to the whole test itself. Okay. So whatever accent you have, it's okay as long as you have clarity of your thoughts. Okay. And as I kept on mentioning, you have it's okay if you have a thick accent, but as long as your idea is clear, because sometimes there are those that have subtle accent. However, in terms of the words that they speak, sometimes it's a little unclear. Okay, what is an example that I can give? Um, for example, words with an L and with an R. For those who are, I've experienced based from experience. Okay, I'm sharing based from experience. There are those that I've coached already. They're having problems with letter L and letter R. So usually these are the Orientals, the Chinese. Um, just to give an example, um, they were mentioning, or he was mentioning the word complex with an L. But then again, he was mentioning complex. On the other kinds of words or during the other parts of the speaking test, there was no problem with it. However, when the time came that he had to explain something, I think that was in part 3, and then he had to use the word complex thrice during that part 3, it was harder for me to understand because of the difference when it comes to how he pronounces his words. Instead of pronouncing complex, I was having a hard time understanding if he was saying or he meant complex or compress, because he doesn't also pronounce X sound that much. So that's really a concern. So if ever you're having problem when it comes to those kinds of instances wherein the meaning or the clarity is already sacrificed when it comes to your pronunciation, then that's the time that you really have to focus on your pronunciation as well. Because again, this counts for equally this equally counts for 25% still of your score for the speaking test. Okay, now let's move on to, so again, no need for you to have an accent. So no need for you to start introducing yourself using an American accent. No need to practice using that because it won't really matter. You won't really have that much energy already when it comes to the part 2 or part 3 of the test if you started with an American accent and then in the end you cannot really sustain it. So that's not really proper use of your time and proper use of your energy. Okay. All right, let's proceed. The next one, we have phonetics. Okay, in terms of phonetics, guys, this is actually dealing with two aspects of speech. First off, it deals with the production of sounds, how we pronounce the words, how how we organically pronounce based on how sounds come out of our mouth, the movement of our tongue, the movement of our throat when we pronounce the words. It also matters. Also, and the second part is perception, which means that it's a way by which speech is understood, okay, or how it is heard by other people. Okay, no sounds. Riza S. Corpus from Facebook says, no sounds. No sounds. Guys, let me just clarify. Can you hear me clearly? Yes. Okay. Very clear. Thank you. I would just like to clarify. I think, how can we help Riza S. Corpus? Am I the one? I have Riza. Okay, I think you can just log out and log in, log back. Probably you can try that. Hi, Gavin, Mila Abubo in Facebook. Hello, guys. Okay, so there, this is phonetics. Simply put, in phonetics, guys, first off, we have to produce the sounds first. That is why when we learned language, we were taught how to pronounce the long A's, the short A's, the vowel sounds, the consonant sounds. So because when we combine the sounds of the words together, when we combine the letters, the sounds of the letters together, then we form the words. As we learn how to pronounce each kind of words, the words, strings of words formed our sentences. So, and when we are able to pronounce the words in the sentences well, accounting for the proper intonation and proper stressing when it comes to the words and the stress when it comes to the sentences, that's the time that we are able to produce clearer message when it comes to our speaking. In knowing the language, okay, this is the whole process. Sounds first, how we pronounce each word, how we pronounce each letter or each sound, how we pronounce the words, then we begin with, or then we end up with the sentences and the thoughts and the paragraphs that we have, okay? In terms of our ability, this whole three phases shows our ability to segment or group together continuous strings of words into distinct or unique parts so that each part can be recognized clearly and can be recognized well into other words. Okay, so always remember, guys, that when it comes to formation of sounds, it has to be, the sounds have to be properly pronounced, and as you pronounce the sounds well, you can formulate the words and you can pronounce the words well. If you're able to have good word formation and good word pronunciation, then your sentences have higher chances to be clearer when it comes to their meanings. Okay. So there, it's just that when it comes to the English language, okay, let me ask you, how many alphabets do we have, guys? How many letters in the English alphabet? Very nursery na question. How many letters in the English alphabet? Okay. For all participants on Facebook and here on Zoom, you can share your answer via the chat box. John Villano, 26. Is he correct? Ange Reed, 26. Yes, it's true. We do have 26 letters in the English alphabet. Okay. But in terms of the sounds, How many sounds do you think do these 26 letters produce? Sounds. So letters, 26, yes. Sounds, my guess. I'm just guessing, 51. Hale said 44. So let's look at the people from Facebook. There you go. Correct, guys. Those who said 44, give yourselves pat on the back. Congratulations, guys. You know the 44 phonemes that we have. Congratulations. So see, in just that simple comparison, out of the 26 letters that we have out of the English alphabet, there are 44 total sounds that can be produced. So isn't that a little overwhelming? It is, right? Because as compared to the Filipino alphabet, wherein when it comes to the pronunciation of words, it's just easier because the Filipino alphabet is, or the manner by which we pronounce the words, it's syllabicated. It's simple. When you say ba, it's simply spelled with a B and an A. That's how it usually sounds, right? However, when it comes to the English alphabet or spelling per se, and then pronunciation as well, it's different. There comes a higher level of complication. That's why you need some mastery when it comes to the pronunciation of words. And also, you have to really expose yourselves to these kinds of words also. And in terms of exposure, we will proceed to this one. Okay, this is actually the phonetic alphabet for the English pronunciation. So the phonetic alphabet is divided into two categories. Basically, there's the category for the consonants in there. There's the category also for the vowels. And then there's also subcategories when it comes to these kinds of words or these kinds of letters and sounds as well. Okay, of course, we all know what are the consonants. We all know what are the vowels. We only have how many vowels, guys? How many vowels? Okay, let's look. Let's go back to nursery days, your primary school days. Wow, very good, Gretzel May. See, Gretzel May, very complete. 5 vowels and 21 consonants. Very good, because we have a total of 26. Yes. Okay, good job, guys. Yes, indeed, we have 5 vowels and 21 consonants. But out of the 5 vowels, we have all these sounds right here that you can see on the right portion of your screen. So there are several. Okay, so there's a multitude actually. So that's why you need to really familiarize yourselves with the kinds of sounds that are produced. And also in terms of the pronunciation, okay, you might be a little confused over here or overwhelmed with the charts that I'm actually showing to you guys. This portion above, bilabial, labiodental, interdental, alveolar, palatal, palatal, velar, and glottal. Don't fret with those terms. It's just that these terms actually describe how these words are pronounced. For example, for the consonants that are bilabial, such as P, consonant B, and then you have M, W, and your W's. These are bilabial because when you pronounce the words, your lips, when you pronounce pie, by, my, which, wipe. Can you look at my mouth? What happens? Present, pie, by. What happens? Can you describe my lips? Pie. Mine. Most mothers. What happens when I pronounce those words? Words. My lips touch together, right? The upper lip and then the lower lip, they somehow touch together. So that's why it's bilabial. The two touch together. When we proceed to the labiodental, your upper lip, your lower lip touches your teeth, upper teeth. Fine, vine, vine. So if you try to pronounce fine and vine, can you notice how your lower lip touches your upper teeth? So that's why when it comes to your pronunciation, it is essential for you guys to understand also how these words are pronounced. Because if there is a difference when it comes to the pronunciation, or if there's a slight mistake when it comes to the pronunciation of your words, then there might be, or chances are, there might be also a difference when it comes to the meaning of the words that you're saying, or the meaning of the whole sentence that you would want to convey, right? Okay, so then let's proceed to the interdental. Still, we are doing with the consonants, guys. So interdental, we have here, an example is thigh and thy. So as we spell them, we are still going through the TH kind, but there are two kinds of TH. One is the voiceless, or the soft TH, as some people call it, and then there is the hard TH, or the voiced TH. Okay, that's why there's thigh, that, okay, face, and then there is thy. There's mother, okay? When we say it's voice, there's actually something that happens here on your throat. Your voice box vibrates, okay? So when you press it, or when you touch this one, as you produce sounds to mention the word thy, it's vibrating here. So words such as your soft th and then your hard th, these are the words, or these are the sounds that are actually one of the common mistakes, especially for Filipinos, because these are letters, or these are combinations of letters that are harder for some of us to pronounce. So instead of saying thigh, some people mention it as thigh part of the chicken, something like that. So, but if you're mentioning it like that, again, the message may be a little different if you have a wrong pronunciation. For thy, instead of mentioning it as thy, some people mention it as die. So the word thy and the word die, what do these words mean? Die. So I'm going to type it here. Die versus die. There. Both in Facebook and here on Zoom, I type these kinds of words. In terms of the pronunciation, they're different. In terms of the message, they're different also. So try to be very, very careful when it comes to the pronunciation of these words. Very good, Kriven. Different, entirely different, right? Thy is the older form of the word the article the, and then die means death, okay? So it's entirely different. So instead of just mentioning the article, you might mean that you want someone to die, or at least somebody died. Okay, so it's different. Thank you, John. Correct. Somebody passed away. Okay. Some people, I heard one of my students said, somebody in my family died. And then it's okay if, for example, it was just once, but then again, that word repeated for I think twice or thrice. So it's not anymore a slip, but it's already a systemic error. So this needs to be corrected. Okay. What else are the things or the words and the letters that we usually have a problem with? Aside from the hard TH and the soft TH, we also have concerns when it comes to the Fs, right? F and V, the one that we've mentioned a while ago. Fine, vine. So instead of mentioning vine, we mention fine. Or instead of mentioning fine, we mention pine. Instead of mentioning vine, we mention vine. So these are different. Yeah, the silent letters in the words. Very good. Okay. All right. Next, we have this fourth row. This is the alveolar. Tie, die, night. So you have to pronounce the words wherein it seems as if your tongue is almost going out, but not really. When you pronounce tie, your teeth is closed, but then your tongue is somehow producing the sound. There's the movement of your tongue inside as you pronounce tie. Can you pronounce it with me? Even though I cannot hear you, pronounce the word tie and die. Tie is voiceless, so there's no vibration here when you pronounce tie. When you pronounce die, something is vibrating here, so it's voiced. Okay, tie, die. Okay, there's a difference, guys. And then of course you have night, which is something that is nasal, and then you have the S, su, and zoo. So you have your fricatives here, voiced and voiceless also. Plus, here at the bottom, you have here your central and your lateral, both voiced, ri and li, your letter R and letter L. So typically, as I've mentioned a while ago, this mistake is commonly committed by Orientals, Asians, or mostly the Chinese, the R's and the L's, okay? So careful with these guys, okay? And then when we use the palate to pronounce words such as your shoe or measure, right? So measure. So there's also a difference in terms of whether you are pronouncing the word when it comes to, is there a vibration? Is it voiced or non-voiced? Is it voiceless? Shoe is voiceless. Shoe, shoe. When you pronounce the SH, there's no vibration yet. Shoe. But when you pronounce the S in measure, there's already a vibration that you can notice here. Okay. Next, when you pronounce the word cheese, that's voiceless. Cheese. Ch, ch. Try to pronounce ch. There's no vibration here. But when you pronounce letter J for jump, j, j, j. As you pronounce jump, there is a vibration here. You can feel it clearly. Okay. I suggest, especially if you are one who's having a problem with your F, P, V, B, try to take note of these words that you're having a hard time pronouncing, and then try to pronounce separately the letters first. Okay. And then you can work on it slowly or gradually, but if not, for some, what you can do is to improve your vocabulary, so that if you improve your vocabulary, instead of pronouncing the word fine, you can just think of another word that does not have the letter F. Probably instead of just saying I'm fine, you can just say I'm doing well, so that there's no problem when it comes to your letter F pronunciation. Okay. So that's one thing that you can do. But if you can work on it, if you can try to use your tongue twisters, if you can pronounce tongue twisters regularly, especially if you're having a problem with F, V, P, TH, what else? What else? L's, There, you can do pronunciation. SH also, CHs also. There, you can also use those tongue twisters. Okay, and then of course, the letter Y, when you glide it, it's voiced y, you, ye. It's voiced also, so there's vibration when you pronounce y, you. Okay, there you go. And then when we have the velar, so we have K, G, and then the NG sound. So it's kite, k, 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 kite, and then g, guy. It's stopping. It's oral. There's a stop when we pronounce the word. So you have to pronounce k first before you pronounce the next portion of that word. K, kite, g, guy. So there. Goes. Okay. Goes. And then when you have your NG, much like the word sing or ring, there it's nasal. It's voiced ng, ng, ring. Okay, and then of course, for velar, you have your which, and then wipe, still the same, voiced and unvoiced, okay, appropriately. And then you have your, lastly for this column, the glottal. Okay, you have your uh-oh, and then you have your hi. Okay, so there. We are trying to do the pronunciations just like how they do it um, at the beginning, or let's say in primary school, because sometimes, as I've mentioned a while ago, the problem lies with how you produce the words. And if you're not able to how you produce the sounds. If you're not able to produce the sounds correctly, chances are your words and your sentences may lose its actual meaning or may lose its clarity. Okay? Now we move on to all right, let's move on to your vowels and then your consonants. Okay, this is another format for your chart for phonemes. Some are voiced and some are non-voiced, but in here you will clearly see that there are two categories for vowels and your consonants. The first category here on the left portion are your monophthongs, and then here are your diphthongs, wherein your diphthongs are the combination of sounds for two vowels. Such an example of which is for the word wait, because its spelling has A and I together. So as you pronounce them, you first pronounce the sound of the A, and then after you pronounce the sound of the long A, then you proceed with the I. That's why you have eight, wait. Okay, compared with your vowels here, the monophthongs here, even though you have double E for sheep, they still have the same sounds, both E sound. But for A, wait, A, so you're somehow pronouncing A, long A sound, transitioning to the long I sound. So wait, there. So there's a difference when it comes to the monophthongs and the diphthongs. Okay, and then you have here the more common ones are your schwa. This is your schwa. Okay, this one for teacher. Okay, the schwa, the inverted letter E, this one over here. Okay, this is essential because when you know how to properly pronounce your schwa, more likely it will appear as if you're trying to pronounce the words more fluently. And in terms of your fluency also, there might be chances that you have good scores for that also. So teacher. So the spelling of teacher has an ER in the end, but then since the E for teacher is pronounced using a schwa here, you will transition from the word teach, from the ch sound, straightly or directly to your sound. You will not pronounce the E sound anymore. So teacher, teacher, teacher. Okay. So that's how you properly pronounce that word. Another example is comfortable. Well, comfortable. Okay, so there are words that are pronounced smoothly that way also. Okay, and then of course you have your other words here. I will just be highlighting those that we are having common problems with. Okay, the consonants, we've already mentioned it a while ago. Okay, during the previous slide. Okay, then that's your phonemic chart. Okay, any questions so far up to this point? Okay. You don't have any question, I will have a question. What are the letters, guys, that you're having a hard time pronouncing? Which particular letters? So we're dealing with the letters first. Letter sounds. Apart from the F, P, V, B letters, what else? Soft TH and the hard TH also. There's a concern on that as well. But I hope there's already clarity when it comes to how these words should be pronounced well, or these letters and sounds should be pronounced also. So work on these pronunciations slowly, okay? When it comes to your pronunciation, although some people do not give that much importance to this, but then again, it's the meaning that is important for this one, the clarity of your message. Okay? I will always go back to stressing out the importance of pronunciation in terms of the clarity of your message. Okay. And again, going back to the clarity, another factor that we need to consider when it comes to your pronunciation is, of course, your word stress. Okay. In terms of word stress, we describe this as in a word, there is such a thing as a certain syllable, one or more syllable, that will be pronounced differently. It will be stressed. And in terms of stress, the kinds of stress that are expressed in this are, it may either be higher in pitch, or it may be pronounced with a longer duration, or sometimes, or most likely, these are pronounced in a little louder volume compared to the unstressed sounds or the unstressed syllables of the words. Okay. Question, guys. Does word stress really matter? Why, or do you think it's important to actually use the proper stress when we mention certain words? Yes, it's important. Thank you, John and Criven. It is important, absolutely. Without a shadow of doubt, it is important, actually. Thank you, Kay. Very good. John from Zoom said, in every stress, they give a different definition. Verhel Tariel said, yes, because it denotes the feeling of the speaker. How about from those people on Facebook Live? Why do you think word stress is important? Oh, Riza can hear me already. Yay. Okay. Why do you think it's important, guys? Let's wait for those on Facebook. John said it denotes Verhel said denotes the feeling of the speaker. definition also, or the meaning of the word, meaning of the sentence? Okay. Yeah. So as I've mentioned, in relation to the meaning of what you want to say or in relation to the meaning of your whole sentence, okay, very good. It gives emphasis. It affects your pronunciation. And as it affects your pronunciation, yes, very good. EJ can last. It avoids misunderstandings or confusion with regard to what you really wanted to say. What is an example of that? Let's look at this word. Okay, the word that you see on your screen, we have two versions of it. You have two versions of it. The first version is the verb format or the verb version. Same spelling, but it can be used as a noun or an adjective. So how do you pronounce? Wait, can I ask someone to unmute? John, can you unmute?
Hello, ma'am. Good evening.
Hello, good evening, John. It's so nice to hear your voice. Okay. How do you pronounce the first word, the verb format of this word?
Present.
I'm sorry, once again.
Present. And the other one is
Present.
present.
Very good. Can you hear it clearly once again, slowly, for the verb?
Present.
Present. Very good. Very enunciated letters. Good job. Now, the last one.
Present.
Present. Very good. Thank you so much, John, for participating. Good job. Did you hear those words? As John pronounced the words present and present, okay, present is this word, present. But as he pronounced present, the verb format, the stress is at this portion. The last portion, yeah. The second verb or the second syllable. When he pronounced the noun or the adjective format, present, the stress is at the beginning. So in terms of the structure or in terms of the format of the words, it really changes when it comes to the stresses. Okay, so careful with that. I had a coaching session once, and then the topic that I gave the student was gifts. So since the student wanted to use another word aside from the word gift, she used present. But then again, she was having a hard time to give the proper stress or to pronounce the word properly, because sometimes even though she wanted to mean present, just like the word gift, she was pronouncing it the presents, just like that. The presents I was giving my family. So it's as if I was confused if she was mentioning about the gift or the precinct, the precinct. Yeah, and so it's quite confusing that way. I'm a Filipino, and somehow, in a way, I understand the context. In a way, it's just that there are chances that for your IELTS exam, you will have foreigners as your examiners. They do not actually understand that much the accent that we have. So that is why, in terms of pronunciation, even if you have the Filipino accent or the accent of your native dialect, you still really need to work on how you're going to manage working well with your accent, or trying to at least have a subtle accent so that the clarity is first the priority when it comes to your speaking also. Okay, so no problem if you're having other concerns, as long as the meaning does not differ, okay, there's no problem with it. But as you pronounce the words, if the meaning changes, then that's the problem. Just like in our example, thy and die. So very different, entirely different words. Okay, another example. Okay, so we have here different formats of the word which came from the same family. So one is an adjective, the other is a noun, and the other is a verb. Okay, for the word, for the first word, where do you think does the stress lie? Is it the first syllable or the second syllable? First syllable or second syllable? Simple, simple. First. Very good. Christine Reyes Pascua Nasino. Van Verhel, correct. It's the first syllable. This is the adjective format. Now, how about the rest? The second one, simplification. Simplification. Let's count the word simplification. Fourth, correct, because this is the first syllable, second syllable, third syllable, fourth syllable, this one, and then you have your last syllable over here. Some said it lies on the third syllable. If it lies on this syllable, in fi, simplification, that would sound awkward, right? That's not how we pronounce the word simplification. So some of you said, or most of you said it lies on the fourth one. So this is actually the proper stress. This is where the proper stress lies. The fourth syllable, simplification. Okay, next. The last one, simplify. Ooh. For this one, some of you, yeah, you're having different answers. First, third, yeah. For this kind of word, so as we've mentioned a while ago, in terms of word stress, sometimes there are words wherein they have two stresses. The first one is the primary stress, and then they have a secondary stress. For this one, the primary stress is sim here in the first syllable, but then again, you still have phi, the last syllable, the third one. Okay, so the first one is, yeah, this is the primary. How do I do this? Yeah, primary. And then this one, you have your secondary. Let me just do that like this. Okay, simplify. Okay, because you don't say simplify. You don't say simplify. You don't say that. It's not entirely the same. There is a stress for the last syllable, fi, but it's not as strong as simplify, right? So you're trying to pronounce this one longer, so there's still a stress for that one, but not as strong as simplify. Okay, there you go. So, okay, so that's why when you are pronouncing the words, you need to put the proper stress. Um, how many of you guys have their word banks already? Word bank, their list of words that they would like most likely use when it comes to IELTS exam, whether it be their listening or writing or speaking. I had my own last year when I was reviewing for the exam. I had my own also. I tried to create my word bank in an Excel sheet. I'm much more comfortable with that one. I tried to create separate tabs for words that I can use for people, words to describe people, words to describe places, um, or words that I can use for education topic or technology topic, or words that I am most likely using, such as words for agree, disagree. Yeah, so I have these kinds of words because words like agree with this notion, opinion, sentences for these kinds of words, synonyms for opinion. Yeah, so these are also used for speaking as well, and in as much as you're also using this for writing. When I have my word bank or when I'm trying to do my reading, if I encounter a new word for me, I list down that word. So there's several steps involved when it comes to building my word bank. I build the or I lock in the word. I type the word. After that, I look for the meaning. Okay, I look for the meaning of the word. I listen to how it is pronounced. Because when you type it, right, when you type it in Google or on Google, there is an option there that you can listen to how it is pronounced, or you can just type it on YouTube, and then there are also certain sites there or certain channels there that show how words are also pronounced, or you can listen to how the words are pronounced. Some even have videos, so you can see how the mouth opens when you pronounce certain words. So it's easier that way also. Life as it is simpler for this for this generation, because everything can be found online, but please do be careful still, because there are some words that are pronounced differently, some context also of the words are different. That is why in terms of our next step, the fifth step, you have to take note of how these sentences or how these words are used in a sentence. The context matters. Because even if you are able to use high level lexis or high level vocabulary, if you are using them in a different context and if you're pronouncing them wrong, then it doesn't count that much. There's not much effect when it comes to your score. So you really have to pronounce them well. Okay, pronounce them. And last thing also, yeah, I've mentioned create sentences. Read read about on how these were used on example sentences, and create your own sentences also using the words that you've learned. That's why when we were, I think, I don't know if we have the same format, but when I was in high school or in elementary, when we have our spelling every Mondays, I think, we were given 10 words. We were asked how the word was spelled, how the word was pronounced, and then after that, we have to make sure that we will be able to make our own sentences. Because when it comes to the use of the words also and the pronunciation of the words also, the application lies in your ability to use them in proper sentences. Okay? So there. Also in speaking, you have to pronounce these sentences, of course. In writing, it's okay if you just write because that's writing. That's the skill that you need for writing. But in speaking, you have to pronounce, you have to actually utter the words in the sentences or along with the complete thought of the sentence. It needs to be complete, the whole process of it. Okay? It's not enough for you to just look at the meaning in a dictionary and just compile it and not use it in a sentence. That would be an incomplete learning process for you. Okay? So build your word bank and do the step-by-step process in that way. So that you will also be able to apply the word stresses as you pronounce that one. Okay? All right. Next one also, after that, we have your intonation. Okay. Intonation is simply put, it's called the melody of the sentence. Okay. In the intonation portion, okay, this somehow creates the changes in the pitch of the voice, because sometimes when we talk with a rising intonation, sometimes there is a falling intonation. Okay, so there are different purposes also when it comes to the kinds of intonation that we have. And in terms of its functions, having good intonation or appropriate intonation distinguishes the meaning of your sentences or the purpose of your sentences. And it also allows you as a speaker to express yourself properly. Okay? So in terms of the types of sentences, let us have a review. What are the types of sentences that are that we have? What types of sentences do we have? Yes, simple sentence is a type of sentence, but that's more likely in terms of structure. Simple sentence, compound complex sentence, that's in terms of the structure. But when it comes to the meaning or the purpose of the sentence, so what are the types of sentence? We have statements, or just very good, Joanna, Joe. Imperative. What's another word for imperative, guys? Very good, Joanna. Imperative sentence. Imperative is important, okay? So it's also a kind of sentence that gives commands, right? So that's your imperative sentence. Also, you have your simple statements. It's mandatory. Very good, Krivin. Okay, so if it's a command, it's mandatory, right? You have to do it, so it's imperative. Okay, then you have your statements also. Next, you have request. Is it a type of sentence also when you're making a request? Can you please pass me the Seth? Hi, Seth. Ayun, okay. Imperative. Sample of a request. Can you please pass me the salt? Or can you pass the salt, please? Jenny Rose Prudente Raka. Good job. Very good. Declarative sentence or a statement sentence. Good. What else? What do you call the sentence that asks a question? Hi. Very good, guys. Interrogative. Good job. Oh, see, you know that. Is there a difference in terms of the manner that we pronounce or we say interrogative sentences versus declarative sentences, or sometimes your opinion or exclamatory sentence? Is there a difference in terms of intonation? Which one has a rising intonation? Interrogative or declarative? Rising intonation. Rising. Very good, Joanna. John, good job. Rising is interrogative. Jenny. Jenny Bautista. Jenny Bautista, correct. Interrogative sentence. Also, good job. Yun. What is an example of an interrogative sentence? Can you please type your interrogative sentences, please? What is your name? Very good. That's an interrogative. It asks a question. What is your name? What is your name? Sometimes, I remember I had a student during one of my coaching sessions wherein it's as if, just like I mentioned a while ago, when I ask her a question, her answer is also a question. Not because that is her intention, but because her intonation is something that she really needed to work on. I asked her I think that was for the part 2. Describe describe a road trip that you had recently. And then her introduction sentence for that one was, last June we had a trip to Baguio. Like that. Last June we had a trip to Baguio and we were with my family. So something like that. It's a little weird when you're hearing um successive sentences in an interrogative tone, because I know for a fact that that is not her purpose as she answers. It's just that when it comes to her manner of speaking, she said it's just her natural way of talking in Filipino. I don't know what, I don't remember. I forgot already what's her, yes, provincial accent. Provincial accent. She did have an accent, but I forgot already what kind of accent that was. But when she tried to speak in English, that's how the intonation translated. It's as if she's always asking a question, even if for the part 3, she was already giving very substantial answers. There is no conviction when it comes to her answers because it's as if she's always asking a question. I asked her about the benefit of or the advantages of space travel, and she answered it quite well in terms of the content, but in terms of the manner or the delivery and the intonation in particular, it was something that I didn't get any conviction or I wasn't convinced. Ah, really? From Marinduque. Marinduque is one place in the Philippines. Yeah. Okay. Now I know. I didn't ask her. Region 4A. Okay. Ah, is it the same as Mimaropa? 4A, 4B? I'm not sure. Mimaropa. Okay. I'm not good in ano. Ayan. Okay. What else? Well, that was the kind of answer that I got from her. Well, but good thing, what was good about her is that she was recording herself all the time when we had our coaching sessions, so that if there is a feedback when it comes to her intonation, I was kind of pointing it out to her all the time. In this sentence, you use this kind of tone and the meaning was not that clear. So you have to improve it. And then as she tried to answer, or I gave her a copy of the questions that I used for her, and she tried to answer again and again and again and again until she improved. And good thing, she did she did well during her exam. I think she got a 7.5 for her speaking. That was something she said that she didn't expect at all. So there just needs okay. Mimaropa is region 4B. Ah, okay. Sorry. What is Mima? Okay. Marinduque. Romblon, Palawan. Is that it? Yeah, no. Correct. 4B. 4A, I think, is Laguna area. 4 okay. Anyway, that's not our problem still for today. Okay. So as I've mentioned, yan. When it comes to your accent, please do take note or please listen to how you talk in English. If ever you're having sessions with your speaking buddies or speaking partners, or if ever you're booking for a coaching session with your respective coaches or your respective teachers, please do take time and consider recording yourself. For the speaking coaching, if ever we're doing it via Zoom, I allow my student to record the whole session so that the student has a copy. It will be automatically saved on the laptop. So automatically, the student can listen to the session right after we conducted it. So that's what I call the follow through when it comes to the session. Follow through with regard to the feedback, with regard to the kind of questions. If ever these are harder types of questions, then it can be answered again. So at her own pace or at his own pace and time. Okay. All right. Again, proper intonation actually makes it easier for your listener to understand what you as the speaker want to say. If you want to say, well, if you want to give an opinion, if you want to give conviction out of what you said for part three, if you want to ask a question, or if you would want to clarify something, you really need to have your proper intonation. Rising intonation. There are two kinds of intonations, the rising and then the falling kind of intonation. Okay? Practice those well. Mostly, in terms of speaking, we're not actually the type who is bound to talk like this in a monotonous tone wherein you really cannot identify where is the beginning of the sentence and where is the start of the sentence or the end of the sentence because you're talking in a monotonous tone. That's not actually how your speaking should be. It is meant to have an intonation, whether it be rising intonation or falling intonation. Okay, so you must properly use your intonations well, and you must focus your energies. There's also another student that I remember. It's not that it's her purpose not to have an intonation. It's just that um, monotony is her natural way of talking, or she was used to not talking that much. That's why she did not practice having proper intonation. But then again, I just convinced her to talk to herself and try to improve how she talks or how she speaks, applying proper intonation when necessary. Okay, the rises and the falls when it comes to intonation gives life to how you speak. It makes your talking more natural in that way. Okay, there you go. And lastly, of course, we have our this one, connected speech. Okay, in connected speech, as you can see on your screen, it actually allows you as the speaker to say sets of words or series of words smoothly. Okay, and then as you say this series of words smoothly, you're now able to have a more fluent and more natural kind of talking or of speaking, of pronouncing the words. Okay. Um, Sometimes when native speakers actually talk, they pronounce the words quickly, or sometimes if they don't pronounce the words quickly, they add or remove or change certain sounds. So that's why um, it's not applicable for the English language to say that the manner of spelling of the word is how we pronounce them. Because again, we've mentioned a while ago, out of the 26 English alphabet or letters in the English alphabet, it produces 44 sounds, 44 different sounds. So that's why it's entirely different also. Sounds may entirely be different. And even if the spellings of the words are actually the same, these words may be pronounced differently. And if they're grouped together, this may also be pronounced differently as well. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay. So based from that, that is one of the reasons why some students say that it's harder for non-natives to study the English language because of all its complexities. But even though it's hard, please do remember that it's not impossible. It's not impossible to learn and to improve how you speak in English. Again, in terms of accent, it's not our purpose to actually have the accent of native English speakers. But so much so, we would want as much as possible for you guys to at least adapt or to have less um, less difficulty when it comes to pronouncing the words. Okay. Examples of connected speech. There you go. Okay, we have four statements or sentences here. We have, do you want to go? Do you want to go? Then you have here, she gave me two apples. I saw an elephant. And then these are delicious strawberries. Okay. Now, when it comes to connected speech, as I've mentioned, sometimes you have string of words such as this one. String of words comprise a sentence. Yeah. So it depends on the length of the words, but for us, we'll have to make do first with the shorter kinds of words first, like this. Okay. When it comes to the first sentence, as you pronounce them, as you mention the sentence, do you want to go? Do you want to go? Right? It's spelled with, when you pronounce it one by one, do you want to go? So that's how you pronounce each word separately. But then again, if these words are together and if these words are formed in this format, okay, it's not pronounced do you want to go. It's not pronounced that way. You will sound robotic if you pronounce it that way. Okay, so instead of pronouncing it, do you want to go? You should have said it, do you want to go? So in terms of the spelling, I don't know if you're familiar with the Spice Girls song, Wannabe, right? So the wannabe or wanna is the joint format of want to. So that's how natives pronounce want to. Instead of pronouncing it want to, so they pronounce it wanna for this kind of sentence, right? Okay. So another thing that is linked together. So this one, you pronounce it together. Oh, Kevin said, in the UK, ain't it is in it. Ain't it is in it. Okay. Yeah, for different kinds of accents, British, Australian, American, English accents, there are different kinds of connected speech also. It varies. That's why this one, let me correct myself. This is connected speech for American English. But thank you for that additional note, Kriven. You mentioned this one. Let me just share this with those who are on Facebook. This is from Kriven. Ay, wait. Okay. Share natin with the rest of the class. Yeah, this is from Kriven. Yeah, that's his sharing for today. True. That is actually true. Okay, so for this one, do and you are actually connected. And as you connect, because a while ago, instead of just mentioning do you, we said do you wanna go? And then this one, the two words want to, they're also connected. So instead of mentioning want to, wanna. Do you wanna go? Do you wanna go? Can you pronounce it yourself? Do you wanna go? Right? So it's different when you say it. Right? Okay, next, let's proceed to this one. She gave me 2 apples. She gave me 2 apples. Which one do you think is connected for this one? Can you pronounce it? Or can you read it aloud? Of course, it's okay. I can't hear it. But which do you think or are the connected words? Gavin from Facebook. Very good. Mikel Viel de los Reyes from Facebook. Very good. 2 apples. This one. Although there is a slang, gimme, although gimme, this one, this word, yeah, gimme is a slang. Okay, as much as possible, this is not something that we use because if you use gimme, it's not actually that clear yet. Not unlike when you use wanna go for this one. More likely, it is something that you can still understand the meaning of the sentence. But if you said, she gave me 2 apples, it's not as if the sentence is clear when it comes to the meaning. That's why instead of this one being the connected words, it's 2 apples instead. So instead of saying she gave me 2 apples, it should be, it's like 2 apples, like this, 2 apples. So in terms of the natural sounds, I'm just trying to spell it as how you pronounce it. Okay, so the connecting words are 2 apples. Okay, there you go. How about for I saw an elephant? There are also others who got it from Facebook. Mikel, K, Jonas, Jenny. Yeah, good job. Okay, I saw an elephant. Very good, Mikel Viel de los Reyes. Mikel Viel de los... Mikel is on Facebook. I was wondering if Mikel can pronounce this one for us or if he can read this one aloud. Yeah, because he's the one who got it. Not only saw, this is correct. Yeah, these are connected words, this one. But also, apart from that, this is also connected. This one. So when you pronounce this one, it's like, it's fast. You have to pronounce it faster. I saw an elephant. And please do take note that for your article, an, since your article is preceded or is followed by the word elephant, hi Mary, okay? Since it's followed by the word elephant, which starts or begins with a vowel, okay? So an elephant. So you don't actually pronounce it an elephant. I saw an elephant. So sometimes when you're trying to pronounce it the way native speakers do, so an elephant. So sometimes they pronounce it an elephant. Okay. Hi, Mary from India. Good evening. From the Philippines. Okay. All right. I saw an elephant. All right. And then lastly, let's take note of this one. These are delicious strawberries. Which among these words are connected? Hello, Mary. Okay, what else? And good job. John, very good. Actually, the connected words are these two. You have 2 sets of connected words or 2 pairs. Oops, where's that? Okay, this one, yeah. Very good, EJ. And EJ typed how it should be pronounced. These are. It's not actually these are, but these are. Just like what we've mentioned a while ago. These are. It's different when you pronounce these are, because in these are, my tongue, these are, it's not coming out of my teeth. D, D, D. But when I pronounce these are, my tongue is outside. These are. Can you see the difference? It's a good thing I had my camera with me, so you can see my how I pronounce them. These are. Very good. These are, and then delicious. That's connected. Apart from that, this one is also connected. Not really connected, but in terms of how you don't pronounce it as strawberries, but instead you pronounce it as strawberries. This one, it's as if you're pronouncing it like this. Strawberries. Like that. These are delicious strawberries. So these, because you have two S's or two consonants over here, more likely when it comes to the natural pronunciation or how natives pronounce this, they combine two consonants that are together. Delicious strawberries. Okay. Very good, EJ. Delicious. Oh, delicious. Also for this one, sometimes they remove the E. It's a straw. Delicious strawberries. These are delicious strawberries. The D is something that you can hear, delicious, but the E over here, it's like a schwa. Remember the schwa a while ago? The inverted E, wherein it's like silent E. Delicious strawberries. I wonder, I think it, I hope you're pronouncing the words on your own, even if I can't hear you. Because in pronunciation, you need to actually produce the sounds yourself. That's why a while ago, we spent quite much time when it comes to studying each kinds of sounds so that it's clear also for you. Okay, so I hope examples of the connected speech, although we only had 4 of them, I hope these are a little clearer to you now when it comes to the pronunciation. Okay, so for me, when it comes to pronunciation, even though I had my qualms at the beginning, I was having a hard time with certain pronunciations of the words. I think what was my strength was my intonation. I tried as much as possible to talk in a lively manner, and I tried to retain. Also. Oh no, not retain. Sustain. I tried to sustain the energy that I had for part 1 up until the part 3, because I remember one of my coaches from 9.09er um, told me that when I was given more difficult types of questions, my pronunciation was different. My fluency was also different. So I had to make sure that even if I was given those kinds of questions, nothing, or at least there would only be a subtle change or a subtle variation when it comes to my intonation. So something that I also tried to manage was my anxiety. My anxiety. I had to manage that because the first time that I was given a curveball or a difficult type of question, I was not able to manage my breathing. I cannot breathe well, especially since every time I was practicing for speaking, I had to wear my face mask. Okay. One tip also that I can share with you guys, most especially if you haven't sat for your exam yet, when you're going to practice, especially either with your speaking buddy or with your coaches for speaking or during your reviews, self-reviews, wear your face mask. The same face mask or the same type of face mask that you're going to take or to use during your test, okay, please use that. So if you plan to use an what's that, a KN95 kind of mask, use that every time you're going to practice, because masks these days have different textures, they have different thicknesses. Okay, since speaking has a lot to do with the production of sound, it also has something to do with how your listener is able to able to listen or to perceive the sounds that you produce. Okay, so even if you have good pronunciation, if your mask is thick, and the person who is listening to you or your examiner cannot listen to your words because you don't produce the sounds well because of the mask, that's not really something that can work on your advantage. So please do practice with your mask on. Another thing that also would help in your pronunciation is for you to practice breathing exercises. Not only will the breathing exercises help you to manage your anxiety and your nervousness, but it also will help you sustain the kind of intonation, also the kind of energy that you have from the beginning up until the end, or at least if you're going to have your part three, which we all know have more difficult kinds of questions, right? At least it's not that much of a difference when it comes to the energy, the intonation, and the vibe that you have for part one up until the part three type of question. If you're able to know how you can breathe or how you should be breathing properly when it comes to that. Okay, so there, I think that's all for today for speaking. Now, I will be asking questions from you. We focus on pronunciation for this night, but all questions that you have with in relation to speaking, I would be happy to assist you or to entertain you. You can just type your questions on the chat box, either in Zoom or on Zoom, and then, or you may also type it on Facebook. For those who are still here, yeah, for those who are still logged in. Questions, clarifications, verifications related to speaking, I hope. Questions. Vince has a question. Okay. Would you recommend tongue twisters? Yes, I would recommend tongue twisters. Yes, 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 definitely. Yes, for tongue twisters, especially if you're having problems with certain sounds. There are tongue twisters intended for SH, CH sounds, S sounds, what else? F sounds, T sounds. So I would recommend for you to read the tongue twisters also. And apart from the tongue twisters, because sometimes for me, it's just as if the tongue twisters are, in terms of the set, I think it's just a way for you to help how you're going to pronounce the words well. And it focuses on your certain problem areas or problem sounds. So it's okay. Apart from the tongue twisters, also, it's good if you are able to read any random article. Read them aloud. Read them aloud, because ultimately you're not going to pronounce or you're not going to answer tongue twister kinds of answers, right? You're going to answer sentences, strings of sentences that makes some sense in that way. So for me, instead of just having tongue twisters, I tried to read aloud articles from anywhere, any article, any magazine that I have. So if I see articles, I just read them aloud. And then I record also, so that after I've recorded them, I would be able to understand, or I would be able to identify, sometimes if I'm pronouncing my for, I'm having a problem with F and P because I'm hurrying. So there. So those are my problem areas. So I list it down also. Thank you for that question, Vince. Next, Sharon Segundino, still from Zoom. Any tips on how to answer a question that you actually have no idea what is all about? Definitely, first, a very important thing that I learned from 9.09er from all my coaches is 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 that if I don't have any idea at all, admit that you don't have any idea. But prior to admitting that you don't have any idea about a question, you have to acknowledge first the question. What's an example? What's an example of a question that you don't have any idea about? For example, if the question is, give me, or let's say for part 2, describe a poisonous plant that you know. Sharon, do you know any poisonous plant? Or everyone, do you know any poisonous plant? If you know, type the poisonous plant in the chat box. Two seconds. And then if you don't have any answer, poison ivy. Okay, Vince said poison ivy. Okay. How about the rest? None. Okay. Mushrooms. Yeah, mushrooms. Mushrooms. Some varieties of mushrooms are actually poisonous. Good, good. It's just that for me, I was given that question back when I was just reviewing, describe a poisonous plant. I tried to answer thinking that the examiner might think I'm intelligent if I give a poisonous plant. But then again, that's not actually something that is measured here in your IS exam. For speaking in particular, you're just being measured regarding your competency in terms of how you express your ideas. And you're not being tested if you're an expert with regard to topics such as botany, or what's that topic about plants or animals. So you're not being tested with regard to your knowledge. You're being tested if you will be able to identify, or you'll be able to express yourself that you don't know anything that much, or you're not that much versed. So you admit it. So what I do, what I learned to do, and what I tried to do is that every time I'm given a hard question, I first acknowledge, oh, that question about poisonous plants is really interesting. It's my first time to be asked that question, in fact. But then again, I can say that I don't have that much to expound about when it comes to this topic. I'm sorry, but what I can just say is something about plants in general. And then I begin to talk about something that I'm much more familiar with. Some plant probably that I grew up looking at because it was tended by my mother. For example, the santan plant that is native in the Philippines. I don't know if it's native in the Philippines. And again, I'm not being tested if I'm an expert when it comes to plants. So that's basically how I answer. I admit first. It's hard sometimes to admit because I don't know. For me, I realize it was my pride um that's making it hard for me to admit that I don't know the answer. But again, one of my coaches told me that I'm not being tested with regard to my expertise when it comes to a particular topic. I'm tested whether I can express myself or not. So I realized that if I tried to answer a question that I'm not really familiar with, let's say, for example, the topic of poisonous plants, I can say a poisonous plant, but then again, if that question was given to me for part 2, I probably wouldn't have answered or wouldn't have expounded on this topic for 2 minutes because I don't know anything more than just poison ivy. Aside from its name, poison ivy, I cannot invent. I cannot invent details. It's harder for me to think of details, something that I'm not really familiar with. It's harder for me to do that. So there, I realized that it's better for me to just admit. But for those of you guys who know, it's okay. You can give feedback to that. It's just that my strategy all the time is go the easy way out. Wherein if I can assure myself that I can better express myself in admitting that I don't know the answer, that's the route that I'm going to take. Rather than expounding on something that I don't really have an idea. I don't have an iota of an idea about it. One question that was given to me, the first question that I really did not know an answer was architecture. I was given that question. That was my first curveball. I really didn't know. What I answered was, what was that? An architecture that, or a building with a unique architecture. I answered Manila Peninsula. I don't know. Because I think that was the building that I saw almost every day when I was working. So that's why it earned that spot. But then again, I learned how to deflect the answer or to say I don't know anything about the question. There. So again, you can say that you don't know anything about the question, but first you have to acknowledge first that you understood the question. Because if you will just proceed with saying, let's say, a plant that um, you grew up looking at or tending or taking care of, but it's not poisonous, then it might cause um, something, it might cost you some points because you might be off topic for that. So if it's not poisonous and the question asks a poisonous plant, so you're off topic for that one. Okay. What else? Any other question? Welcome, Sharon. Okay. So no other questions? Facebook. Kay Paktibar said, I haven't really had any much knowledge about it, but very good. O see, Kay is already prepared with her initial statement on how she will be acknowledging that she doesn't know the answer. Very good. Good job, Kay. But okay, again, for these kinds of questions, since you already have a prepared initial answer, please, please, please pronounce them um, using proper intonation. Because if you do not pronounce them in a using proper intonation, if you're just monotonous, it is something that signals that you have memorized that phrase or that sentence. If you just say, I haven't really had much thought about that, but if you just say it like that, instead of just saying, oh, I actually haven't really had much thought about that. So I think I would just be saying, can you see the difference? Which sounded more natural, the first one or the second one? Second, yes. So practice your intonation even if you have prepared words like this. Please try to pronounce them more natural in a more natural tone. Okay? All right. How to boost your confidence? Boosting confidence. When it comes to confidence, I just actually enjoyed the process. When it comes to the confidence, I didn't think of it as an actual exam. I just thought of it as somebody would be asking questions and I would be answering questions, and I'm not being measured if I know something about the topic or not. Because if I would put that in mind, I would always think that I have to score high, I have to score high, I have to score high. So I would not be able to enjoy the process. I would not be relaxed in that manner. I would not be that confident when it comes to my answers. Also, in terms of confidence, I think one of the biggest ways that helped me is that I keep on talking. I like to talk and talk and talk and talk. Okay. When my husband and I were preparing for the IELTS exam, it was already the pandemic because we enrolled at 9.09 last July, and then we sat for our exam October 14th of last year. Since it was already the pandemic, so everybody was wearing face masks. So during that time, for those 3 months, we were living in BGC. And every time I was doing my errands, I was doing my grocery run, I was talking to myself. I had my mask on, right? So I was talking inside my mask. I was asking myself questions in my mind. I have questions, and then I was talking and talking and talking and talking and talking. Because you really need to talk. For those who are not yet that confident when it comes to speaking, it is most likely because you do not talk. You do not speak in English that much. So, for you to be confident when it comes to English, you have to speak in English. You have to practice how to use English words, how to connect words, and how to formulate sentences in English. Okay, so practice, practice, practice. Speaking is a productive skill. You have to produce actual words. You have to produce actual sentences. Sounds are necessary for this one. Okay. Some people listen to podcasts to improve their confidence so that they already have ideas on how they're going to answer speaking questions. But that's not really completing the whole process because those podcasts that you've heard of will not really translate into answers if you're not actually talking, if you're not applying, or if you're not formulating your own sentences. Okay? So for Beverly Ann Flores Doctolero, you have to search for your speaking body. You have to search for a group that will welcome you so that you have someone to talk to using the English language, or talk to your family, your friends in English. If they speak to you in Filipino or in a different dialect, answer them in English. Okay? Contextualization, if ever we do not have an idea regarding the question, yes, John, that is correct. You can do that. You can do that. Yan. Ayan, BFF also is talking to herself. Yeah. Okay lang. Actually, it's okay. Ngayon kasi we're wearing face mask. So there's no problem. Pero kung before siguro if naglalakad tayo, we were walking and then we're doing like that. Mukhang baliw talaga. Pero ngayon at least we have masks on eh. So carry lang. Diba? Okay. So yun. Any other questions? I think no more questions, no? FB participants are shy. Keep on talking ah. Chika-chika pero English chika-chika ito. I think that's it, BFF. No more question. Yeah, no question from FB eh. Shy yung mga nasa FB. BFF, do you have question?
How to be you, BFF?
Ay, how to be you. lies deep in your heart, BFF.
Okay, I know. That's why our goal is the same.
Yes,
I
it
know.
is.
By the way, BFF, you may do your your advertisement now for 9.09 or the book so that if anyone
Yes.
who knows haven't heard yet, ayan. Most
Oh,
especially my friend,
yes.
Beverly Doctorero. Hello, shout
So
out to my friend.
we have yung 9.09er has already launched our writing yung book namin ngayon. But in time, there will be a launch of our speaking book. Abangan yun, guys, ha? Kasi, it is something that is well thought of, and there's so much heart and dedication that was put to our writing book. As of now, 9.09er has a Shopee page ba yung tawag doon? Shop yun, di ba? Oo. So we have our shop in Shopee, and then the product we have two products there. Ielts na writing book. I just don't have a copy of it with me here in Cebu. I did not bring it. And then there's also an OET book there. So after, I think, come December or January next year, yung speaking books naman natin. So abangan yun because there are already responses there that you can pattern guys ha, pattern, hindi copy, hindi memorize. Kasi the examiners know that. Yun. Tapos, what else? We will continue on producing different kinds of materials for you guys in all subtests. So, continuous naman ng efforts ng 9.09er for all your IELTS needs. So, everything that you need to know, nandito na. So, abangan ang mga programs na meron for 9er. Tapos, what else? Ang ating mga books. Yan. And, yun. For now, for 9.09er, meron yung promo namin. Diba? It's still running for the whole, ano ba? December 1 na pala. December 1. Abangan ang mga programs and mga promos natin for the rest of the year. Yan, definitely meron. Yung mga mamamasko, pwede tayong mamasko ng mga pabook siguro na ganyan. Okay? And for those who know Sir Irvin, pakibati naman siya because si Sir Irvin, he just celebrated his 34th birthday yesterday. So it's not too late to greet him belated birthday greeting. Yun, especially for those who know him na who's been, who had the pleasure of being taught by him. Yun. Greet him and thank him for his existence. Grabe. All of us are grateful for Sir Irvin. Yan. Tapos, yun, that's it. Ayun.
Alright. Ayan. So, Sir Irvin, Queen M, thank you for giving us na 4 na beneficiaries before. So, hopefully, madagdagan yon pa-birthday. Cheers! Di ba, BFF? Alam na this.
Abangan natin. So, 9.09er will continue to have these kinds of sessions every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday.
Yes.
Every Wednesday.
Same time, same channel. 9 p.m. Philippine time.
Philippine time. Wednesday. Yes. Iba-ibang topic. So for this month of December, nakaano po kayo for speaking?
Yes, we're focusing on speaking. So just for tonight lang, we just focus on pronunciation. So yun lang. But for the others, everything that we can consider for speaking, because we have different panel scripters, right? So yun, i-discuss rin na other lecturers.
Surely. Okay. So I think there's no more questions from Facebook and Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
So I think BFF, let's call it a night. So
Yes,
thank you. Thank you once again for joining us for this lecture. So hopefully we can see you on writing siguro. Writing na.
Writing na.
Writing na siguro. Alam na this. Okay?
Alam na this.
So okay. So pahinga na. Ipahinga na yan. Thank you everyone. BFF, chat na lang. Alam na.
Yes, BFF.
Thank you.
Continue to be inspired, guys. God bless you. Stay safe.
God bless. Bye.